Hi there, my name is Allen Chen and today we're going to be making some pumpkin ravioli. So the first step is to prepare your pumpkin, and first thing you want to do is to scoop out all the seeds and the pulp inside the pumpkin, and also to skin it. And then after you've done that, you want to cut the pumpkin into 1-inch cubes and then toss it with some olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then put it in some aluminum foil and wrap it nice and tight and put it on a sheet and put it in a 350-degree oven for about an hour or until it becomes soft. After that's done, you want to let it cool for a little while, and then you're going to puree it. So we're going to just take our pumpkin and put it into the food processor. And you really want to make a puree, so make sure you get all the lumps out in there, and so it's nice and smooth. So now we have this nice, really smooth pumpkin puree. And then we want to drain out the excess moisture out of this because if you have too much water inside the filling, it's going to create steam when it cooks, and then you'll have exploding ravioli, so you don't want that. So just take a sieve and put it over a bowl and put all the puree in there. So again, just let it sit at room temperature at first, and then once it's cooled down to room temperature, put it in the refrigerator and just let it sit overnight, and then we'll deal with it the next day. So next we're going to make our pasta dough, and first start off with, I have some hot water with a few pinches of saffron in here, and just let that steep for a little bit and let it cool down to room temperature. The first thing you want to do is you want to take your semolina flour and you just want to pour it onto a nice clean countertop, and then basically form a well in the center, kind of like you're making a volcano. And then take your eggs and just give them a really nice beating. Then just take it and pour it into the well. Make sure the well is deep enough and wide enough so that it can actually hold all of the eggs. Nice and slowly. Adjust it if you have to. Then you want to just add a couple of drops, not about 4 or 5 maybe, of the saffron water. And it's going to give it a really nice color, really nice deep yellow color, almost like egg noodles. And then nice little pinch of salt, and then a little bit of olive oil. Okay, I'll give it some elasticity so it'll be nice and easy to work with when we roll out the pasta dough. And then just start in the center and just kind of start stirring it around and flick little bits of flour from the walls inward. And then the dough should start coming together. It'll get a little bit messy, but that's okay. And once you have something that's sort of starting to resemble actual dough, you can actually start being a little bit more rigorous with it and just kind of go at it. And you really want to make sure that all of the flour is absorbed into the liquid. And again, it'll be kind of messy, but should eventually come together like into one mass like this. And then you just kind of want to get the rest of the dry flour absorbed. And basically, the consistency you're trying to look for is kind of similar to Play-Doh when you first get it out of the little tin, So it should be flexible but not incredibly sticky. And depending on how big your eggs are, you might need to add just a little bit of flour. Again, the more you work it, the firmer it's going to become. So yeah, this is about right. It's flexible, but it's not really sticking to my hands too much. And then the next step is to put this in some plastic wrap. Just cover it up and let it sit at room temperature for about half an hour, and that'll allow the dough to rest, and so that'll become nice and smooth and even. All right, so now we're going to make our ravioli filling. I have here the drained pumpkin puree that we did earlier, and I have a saute pan here with a little bit of olive oil. And first we're going to just sweat some shallots in the olive oil for about 2 to 3 minutes. You know, just until it becomes soft and translucent. As you can see, the pumpkin puree has really deepened in color. It's starting to look a little bit more like what you would get in a can. And that just shows that the flavor is going to be a little bit more intense now that we've gotten all that water out. Next, you want to mix in a little bit of breadcrumbs. It's going to give body to the filling. Then we have some Parmesan cheese. It goes in there. And just to give it a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of that something special, we have some gingersnap cookies that have been crushed. We're also going to mix into there. It's just, a little pinch of salt, a little bit of pepper. Mix this in a little bit. And don't be surprised, it's going to get quite firm. And just like with the pasta dough, the more you mix it, the more even it'll become. It'll actually resemble something that looks like ravioli filling. Okay. All right, our shallots are ready. We're just going to put those in. Just give it a nice hard mix. Now you can see it's starting to come together. It's nice. Color is nice and even. Make sure all that Parmesan cheese is evenly distributed throughout the mix. Alright, the next step is to shape our ravioli, fill them, and actually cut out pieces of ravioli. Alright, now we're actually going to shape and make our ravioli. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take your dough and grab about a ball about the size of a kiwi fruit, and then make sure you cover the rest of it up, and so it doesn't dry out. Just work it in your hands a little bit and flatten it out into a disc. And then take your pasta machine and have it set to its widest setting, and then you're just gonna feed it through the machine a couple times. And this is just basically working the pasta dough to give it a little bit of elasticity and a little bit of structure. Just after you feed through once, fold in half, put it through again, fold in half, turn it, give it a quarter turn, feed it through. You want to do this about maybe 6 to 8 times. So this is the last one. You just got to be careful that nothing, tear everything. So just take your time with this. Don't rush it. All right. So now we have our pasta sheet. All right. I'm just gonna cut that off to make a straight edge. You can still use this, so save it. I'm just gonna divide this in half. Okay, so take one half and set it aside. Take the other half, and we're gonna start filling the raviolis. So take your filling and take about maybe a half teaspoon, not a lot, and just start in one corner, a little ball of filling there, and just make a grid, spacing the fillings about 1 inch apart. Then you want to take your egg wash, and you don't have to, it doesn't require a lot, so you don't want to gloop it on, otherwise you're going to get a hot mess. So just take a little bit of egg wash and go along the perimeter of the sheet of pasta. Top, bottom, sides. All right, and then also in between each of the fillings. Make sure you get nice coverage all around. All right. Now here's a little bit of the tricky part. You want to take the other sheet of pasta and carefully lay it over so that it covers. All right, make sure the corners meet. And then carefully, using your fingertips, starting at one end, just kind of pat down the dough. And the egg wash will act like a glue, so it doesn't take much force to get the two sheets to stick, but kind of work your way around the filling. You can pat it down just a little bit. And just make sure you get all of that air out. Because if you don't, again, the heat from the boiling water could cause that to expand, and then you'll have exploding ravioli. Next, we're going to cut them out. This is a fluted pastry wheel. You don't have to use this. It just gives the ravioli these nice serrated edges. You can use a pizza cutter if you want. This just kind of makes it look nice. So just kind of go along one side, just tear it off, and then the top, we've got our ravioli, homemade. So just continue rolling out your dough and filling your raviolis until you're ready to cook them. Alright, now it's time to make our sage butter and actually cook our ravioli. So first thing you want to do is to heat up a pan and just basically melt your butter into there. Don't set it too high. Just let that melt for a little while. Alright, and we're actually going to be using the stems of the sage leaves, and it's a great way to, use something that is commonly not really used and to basically utilize the entire herb. So we're going to just stick that in there with the sage butter to let that infuse the butter. You basically just want to cook it on low heat, allow it to melt, and you're basically letting it get to the point where it becomes brown. You're going to start smelling a lot of sage coming out from the stems, imparting a lot of flavor into there. Now we can actually start dropping our raviolis into the water. And once the butter turns brown, it's actually going to start smelling a little bit like caramel. It's got kind of almost a sweetness to it. And that's also the sage doing its work in there as well. So again, 2 minutes about for the ravioli. It doesn't take long. And because we put in that saffron into the pasta, normally the pasta is going to become very pale and almost white, but since we put the saffron in there, it's going to stay a nice yellow, kind of give it this extra element of color in there. So now we're going to strain off the sage butter. So just to eliminate all the clumps in there. Get rid of these. Now, this goes back in the pan and turn off the heat. There's enough heat in the pan. And then we're just going to put about a tablespoon of cream in there. It's going to kind of give it a little bit of body and a little bit of color. As you can see, our ravioli is pretty much already floated to the top. Now we're going to take out the ravioli. Just grab a spider and strain it. And from there, you can turn the heat back onto your butter, just low heat, and it goes straight into the sage butter. Or actually, before that, just put in a little bit of your chiffonade sage. Put it at the end so that way the sage doesn't become really crispy. It's a little bit tender. Again, under low heat as well. And just put the ravioli in. Make sure you try to get as much water as you can off of it. So that should be enough. Just toss it a little bit. Toss it around. Make sure you coat all the ravioli in there. And just plate it up. And you can add a little bit more sage leaf on top. Then we're just going to garnish it with, first, a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Then I have a little bit more of the ginger snap cookies that we use for the filling that are crushed, and you just sprinkle it on top. Just give it a little bit of sweetness. There you go. Pumpkin ravioli.